Is that a
Yeah.
fear that people talk about?
No, the main fears now is about the unity of the country. What is going to happen with Catalonia?
Dr. Ponce, since 2018, Spain has faced an institutional crisis surrounding the mandate of the General Council of the Judiciary. What is this?
Yeah, the General Council of the Judiciary is the main institutional power of the judges, and they are composed by a number of judges uh, theoretically selected selected for under independence criteria. So this is an organ that decides when a judge has to be retired, or when a judge has to be changed of the post, and so on. It's a very important organ in institutional organs in terms of it's the third power of the country.
Third power. But so the way you described it, as I understand it, General Council of Judiciary itself is not a court. It's administrating the judicial system, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And the problem is that this institution was created to guarantee the independence of the judiciary power.
So
But
far, this sounds good. What's the problem then?
yeah, the problem is that the members are nominated by the political parties. And that's the problem.
We
And
have
this
that
is,
problem in America.
yeah, but this is a clear contradiction. If you ask my personal point of view, okay, they should be independent, completely independent, and the nomination of the members of this General Council of the Judiciary cannot be selected from the political parties. And the main problem we have is that the Popular Party and the Socialist Party, that is to say, the center right and the center left, didn't agree about the composition of this council. And they stuck, the members has not been renovated, and we have a problem in terms of the daily work of the
Well, you
judges.
mean because of disagreement between the two parties of who should be in the General Council of Judiciary, new members to that council have not been nominated. So now
Yeah,
it's stuck
yeah,
with,
yeah.
oh, that's really
They talk
interesting.
openly about judges. This judge is conservative. This judge is progressive. This judge is half from the Popular Party. This is very friendly for the socialists. And since then, as the Popular Party and the Socialist Party didn't come to an agreement, well, the system is almost collapsed, and we have a problem. We have deep down we have a problem of polarization nowadays in Spain.
Polarization. Did that
Yeah,
spill over? Did this problem of polarization impact your recent elections?
yeah, and it's clear. The outcome is very clear because the results of the election, the outcome of the last elections was a block of the right and a block of the left. And the difference between them is few MPs, four, five, and we don't know if we are going to form a new government, or we will have a new elections in probably in January of the next year, because
When you say
of the
um,
polarization. The problem is not the parties.
when you say a block on the right and a block on the
So
left, the way I envision this, the way I sort of picture this in my mind is that you're in Spain's political landscape, the right and the left already have their diehard sort of loyal followers, and there's very little left in the middle to compete for. Is that what you're referring to? Because we have that problem in America. Really, independent voters are shrinking and shrinking. More are being Republican, more are being Democrat, and there's fewer and fewer votes to really compete for. Is that a phenomena? Is that a thing in Spain, or did I get that wrong?
It's not exactly the same because in the United States, as you know perfectly, you have a two-party system. We
Yeah,
don't have a two-party system. We have a proportional system.
yeah.
Main problem here is that we have two big um, parties, the Popular Party on the right and the Socialist Party on the left. But aside from these big parties, we have the extreme right and the extreme left parties. Not to speak about the nationalist parties, which is another problem. No? And the drama of the Spanish polarizations nowadays is that it's impossible an agreement between the center right and the center left. So, if you want a majority in the parliament, the right needs the extreme right, and the left needs the extreme left.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and this is a very bad way of doing things under my personal point of view, not only as a scholar or an academic. Because if the right wants the government, they need to include people from the extreme right, and vice versa, no, on the
Yeah.
left. This is well known. In another European countries. It's not the case of Spain. You have to look at Sweden or Italy and so on. But in the case of Spain, the majority of the population vote for the center right or the center left.
Oh, I see.
And a minority vote for the extreme right or the extreme left. The problem is that we don't know why we cannot reach an agreement as in the German system. The Socialist Party and the CDU in
Yeah,
Germany
yeah.
reach agreements and they have shared governments without problem. But here is impossible. And probably one of the problems we have in Spain nowadays is that the spirit of the transition, this ability to dialogue between the center right and the center left, now it has disappeared.
Oh, wow.
Uh, yeah, and we have a problem of a deep polarization in that way. A deep polarization in the parliament because at the level of the street in the daily life, you cannot perceive a polarized society. But the political system, even though the society is not polarized, the political system is pretty polarized nowadays in Spain.
I've asked you about history and about things that have happened. Let me ask you about the future now. Do you think Spain is in danger of democratic backsliding?
Well, if so, is not under a major risk than in other countries, because there are many countries, democratic countries, that they are suffering a lot of pressure, no? And I think that the democracy should be kept and should be conserved in many countries.
Mm-hmm.
But in the case of Spain, well, I would say that up to a certain point, if we don't take a moderate point of view and the consensus and a little bit the spirit of the past, no, the spirit of the transition, the democracy could suffer a lot because of the behavior of the political parties. Yes, unfortunately, I have to say so, and I hope it's not going to happen. But
I
we
hope
are under
so.
risk now. Yeah,
Is that something that's talked? Is that a
yeah.
fear that people talk about?
No, the main fears now is about the unity of the country what is going to happen with Catalonia.
Okay.
I would say that, well, most of people live in a daily life without perceiving the strengths and the weaknesses of the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, but well, the main fear is, well, Catalonia and what is going to happen with the government. Um, Most of the Spanish people want a center right or a center left government,
Not the extreme ends.
not extreme. And the
Yeah.
problem is that we are going to have an extreme, up to a certain point, an extreme government in the future if the situation uh, doesn't change.
Doesn't resolve. Um, in closing, Dr. Ponce, if you wanted our audience to remember just one point about Spain's modern history, what would that be?
Well, the best point in our modern history, without that, are the 60s and the 80s. I would say that there is a very good period of time for Spain
60s and the 80s, okay?
and the 80s, yeah, because of the economic and the social growth of the country. And even more, I would say that there is a huge period of time from 1964, around that year, up to 2004. And this period was very, very good for Spain in terms of becoming a democracy, in terms of economic growth, in terms of a more complete and complex society, and in terms of being a country integrated into the world. In that period of time, we enter into the NATO, we enter into
United Nations.
The United Nations was before, in 1950.
Oh, 1950, okay.
1950. But at this time, well, the integration into the NATO and the integration into the European community, and after that, the European Union was very important for the country, and not always because we were integrated into these international institutions, but also because up to 2004 we developed, under socialist government and popular governments, a very interesting foreign policy.
Foreign policy, okay.
Foreign policy, yeah, addressing to keep the sphere of control, if we can say so, in the Western Mediterranean area, which is very important and is a very sensitive area for us, the axis that unites Canary Island and Balearic Island through the Strait of Gibraltar. This is very important for the security of Spain and also for the Western security. And mainly because at that time we developed a very good foreign policy with towards South America, and also with links, very strong links with the United States. I think that period of time, mainly the 80s, 90s, and the first years of the 21st century, was a sort of golden age.
Golden age.
For the Spanish foreign policy. Unfortunately, after 2004, well, we keep a sort of foreign policy, but we don't have a very solid foreign policy today. We keep the links with the United States and with Europe and so on, but which is our role in South America, or which is our role in Africa or in other places? No? It seems that Spain has abandoned a little bit the foreign policy and only focused into their problems. No? And I think that this is a mistake.
Well, hopefully Spain can return to its golden policy, golden age, both from a foreign policy point of view and also culture and economics in the very near future. Dr. Ponce, thank you so much for educating me and our listeners. And to our listeners, if you know of any history that could provide more perspective from the past on this subject, please share it with us and tell us what's your perspective. Thank you so much, Dr. Ponce.
Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure.
Same here.